So today we have a quick, well, I hope it's quick. I don't think it will be based on my notes. But I've got horse riding in an hour and it takes me like 20 minutes to get there. So I don't have much time. I always go horse riding after I film videos and I go with a full face of makeup, and I do wonder if they think I'm a little bit strange. Like, do they think I'm a weirdo? Today's about Miley Cyrus. I spoke about it in the past because there was a rumor that she was in a cult. And it was like a church-related cult, and she had been kind of out of the limelight for a while, and people were just kind of putting two and two together. She was in a cult, allegedly, but allegedly she's like not in the cult anymore. It was called the Modern Mystery School Cult, and I've read about it on Dazed. She has been pictured with some of the members at different kind of churches and things. She is religious. I think her mum's religious, but they're very like modern religious. Like her mum smokes and stuff, so I think there's like a level of distance they keep from some values. Not like I'm saying, I just feel like there's an image of religious people, and then there's like people that just take what they like and leave the rest behind. But there is a thing called the Modern Mystery School, and essentially like it costs money, people pay to be a part of it. It is kind of a cult or a spiritual pyramid scheme, which is what they talk about, and there's a lot of exploitation in that group that is disgusting to read about. So people are just kind of very worried about Miley. She seems to have been in a very vulnerable spot, you know. She went through the fires when California was kind of up in flames and her house burned down with all her memories, and then she went through a divorce from a guy that she had separated from before, and then her parents divorced, and then COVID happened, and I just felt like the whole thing, she just seemed like she was in a very vulnerable spot, and she wasn't really posting on social media much, she wasn't releasing much music, and people I think were just really worried about her. And it seems like she's not in the cult anymore. She's out in the open now, performing again, releasing music, you know, winning Grammys, which I love to see. I've been such a Miley stan for so long, ever since Hannah Montana essentially, and I was what, like 6, 7, 8, yeah, like around 6, and I just feel like even during her bangers era, I was in a bit of a, like, I don't know if I like this, but I was giving her a chance, and she's just amazing. And it's so crazy to me that she's just won her first Grammy now. Like, it's a little bit late. I think she deserved to get Grammys in the past. Some celebrities just have a lot of Grammys, right? And some people think they don't deserve them, and I just feel like it's so crazy that Miley hasn't even got one. But she's such a vocalist. Like, her voice is amazing, her songs are great. Anyway, so she seems to not be in the cult anymore. That was my last video. I'll link in the description if you guys want to see it. Now, it seems like Miley Cyrus has some beef with her dad, which is kind of a shame to see. I don't know if you guys have just heard me say I was a massive Hannah Montana stan. I had everything Hannah Montana: duvet, clock, mousepad, backpack, lunchbox. Everything was Hannah Montana, right? And in that show, her real dad plays her Hannah Montana on-screen dad. Their relationship was so incredible. He was a single dad, and it was just the most fantastic, wholesome, amazing father-daughter relationship you could see on screen. And it just is a shame when you look more into their real-life relationship and how it kind of, there are some cracks, definitely. So Glamour wrote a whole timeline of their family feud recently. So the Cyrus have reportedly been feuding for the past few years. And if you guys don't know, Miley has multiple siblings. Some of them are in the limelight, some of them are not, or like more or less. I've actually been listening to Tish Cyrus's, which is Miley's mum, and Brandy, the oldest daughter. I was gonna say the highest, the oldest daughter. They have a podcast together, and it's super cool to have that like mother older sister podcast to listen to. I don't know, I think it's really cute. The only thing is, Tish has been recommending a skincare brand, and it's an MLM. She says it like, oh, it's like good for working from home as well, and like my friend does it and I bought it and I love it. And I was like, oh no, it's an MLM. But like, I just feel like Tish is at that age, like she's just, what, she's like 56, I think. She's just at that age where it's just kind of like, she probably doesn't know. She doesn't watch YouTube MLM content. You know, she just doesn't get it. I think she just thinks it's like a cool side job for people to have. But that's how people get involved, you know, which is a shame. Brandy, Noah, Trace, and then there's Christopher and Brazen, who are more away from the limelight as far as I know. But they're all kind of very musically talented, which is crazy to have such a talented family. The ever outspoken Miley Cyrus has had a few feuds in her day, including with the designer Stefano Gabbana, of course, because he's trash, Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato allegedly, possibly Ed Sheeran for like 2 seconds, and very publicly Nicki Minaj. I mean, Miley never misses. I just feel like at the time, Miley got so much hate for feuding with Nicki over a miscommunication, essentially, which Nicki took way too seriously. And at the time, I felt like Nicki was so on her peak. I felt like Miley got a lot of hate for it, even though it was literally a miscommunication. And now I feel like it's gone full circle. We kind of understand what kind of woman Nicki is, and mainly what kind of woman she is to other women. And it just makes sense that she would drag Miley on stage for something that is literally misconstrued. Anyway, but sadly for the last decade or so, Cyrus's tiffs haven't been the fun, intra-celebrity kind, but the personal family kind. It seems the Cyruses are feuding amongst themselves. Here's a quick timeline of the drama in reverse chronological order. So this is in chronological order, which is annoying, like reverse chronological, because it's from the newest. So I'm gonna actually scroll all the way down and go from the oldest to the newest, because I actually want to talk about the newest now. Tish and Billy got married after 2 years of dating in 1993, and 17 years later in 2010 Billy Ray files for divorce but drops it a few months later, and then in 2013 Tish files for divorce, but after couples therapy the pair get back together. In May 2020, Noah Cyrus, Miley's younger sister, writes about feeling second best in a song and opens up about growing up in the Hannah Montana star's shadow. And I love, okay, I know Noah Cyrus gets a lot of hate. She was dating like Lil Xan, which, I mean, that was a moment. She's definitely younger, she's of the younger generation, so some things she does can come across as quite cringy or whatever it is, because I think everyone compares her to Miley Cyrus, who got famous in like the early 2010s and the early 2000s kind of. So I just feel like she gets a lot of hate, but if you guys actually look up, go on Spotify or Apple Music, whatever you listen on, and look up Noah Cyrus's music. Her songs are incredible and her voice is great. So just before anyone gets any, you know, Mr. Percocet's really good. She has one called July, I'm pretty sure. And on the Mr. Percocet album, like EP, there are a few other great songs. So if you guys want to listen to Noah Cyrus's music, it's actually amazing. Her voice is great. She mostly blames internet hate for the unbearable experience of growing up in her family, but it does seem like the genesis of a rift between the sisters. So 2022, Tish and Billy Ray announced their divorce. They actually get this divorce, so April 2022. And in 2023, Tish marries her boyfriend, actor Dominic Purcell, in Malibu. He played in Prison Break, as far as I'm concerned. Miley's a bridesmaid, and Brandy and Trace are in attendance. Noah and Brazen are very publicly at Walmart, so they're very opposed to this. Now, I know now about this Dominic situation, and she talks about it on Call Her Daddy, which is the end of today's video that I'm going to get into, but she also talks about it on her podcast, and she does make it seem like this man, Dominic, is treating her incredibly well, and she's finally this new woman, and in like a good way. And Brandy, who has this podcast with her, thinks that he's just very good for her. So, you know, there's that. But Noah and Brazen take their stand and don't go to the wedding. Now, 2023 August, we have following news of her dad's engagement. Fans realized that former Hannah Montana co-stars Miley Cyrus and Billy Ray have unfollowed each other on Instagram, and this is where people got a little bit, what's going on? You know, what is going on? So, October, Billy Ray marries an Australian musician known as Fire Rose. None of the kids seem to be there. So despite Noah and Brazen not being in attendance of their mum's new wedding, they're also not in attendance of this wedding. I don't know if that's because they weren't invited or if they just didn't go and they're just not okay with like the whole thing. But if you guys don't know, Billy Ray is 62. Ugh, this just ruins everything. This was literally my favorite Disney Channel show. Anyway, he's 62 and Fire Rose is allegedly 34. So there is quite a gap between them. It's essentially double, kind of. It's not great, obviously, because the difference in age between Tish and Dominic is only like 3 years. I think she's 56 and he's 53, which, perfect, amazing. And I'm not saying there's anything predatory about it, because Fire Rose is 34, she's a grown woman. I just think it's just weird. And Fire Rose was technically on set of Hannah Montana at the time when they were filming it. I just wanted to add in, because I did look this up later on, it kind of came up, what I was trying to essentially explain. And this was on Yahoo Entertainment, which is such an odd place for it to be. But Billy Ray Cyrus explains how he met now fiance Fire Rose 12 years ago outside the Hannah Montana soundstage. So that's what everyone was talking about, where everyone's like, was she on Hannah Montana? People trying to look for the episodes, and it doesn't exist, I don't think. But Billy Ray Cyrus is engaged to Fire Rose and shares details about how they met more than a decade ago when he befriended her outside the Hannah Montana soundstage. So this gets a little bit more technical, because he didn't meet her now. He met her when she was 22. So the Old Town Road singer 61 finally confirmed to People magazine on Wednesday that he and the Australian singer-songwriter 34 became engaged in August, 4 months after his wife of 28 years, Tish Cyrus, filed for divorce. And Billy Ray and Fire Rose have a new song, Time, out Wednesday, but perhaps more interesting than their musical collaboration is they came together in the first place. Collaboration is how they came together in the first place. He told the outlet that 12 years ago in 2010, while making Hannah Montana with his superstar, daughter Miley Cyrus, he took his dog for a walk on the Tribune Studios, now Sunset Bronson Studios grounds in Hollywood. I love doing the show, he recalled. There's a couple old pine trees on that lot that look like Tennessee. Tex and I would go there in the middle of the day and he'd take care of business and we'd stretch, and I'd think about how much I miss Tennessee. On that given day, Firos came out of the front door. There was almost a moment of, I don't know, recognition. I was like, this girl's a star. Firos, then 22, came over to say hi to the dog and Billy Ray, whom she recognized. She told me she'd had an audition and I said, well, I'm sure you got the job, he recalled. However, Firos, who doesn't remember what the audition was for, didn't. Billy Ray offered to take her inside and introduce her to producers. I mean, this sounds so... like, oh, this girl's a star. Like, oh, I'm sure you got the audition. Let me take you inside, meet the producers. It's just such an odd... And she was 22 and he was... I just thought, well, the casting agents, the producers, the writers, they're all on the floor of where we do Hannah Montana. And I actually said to her, don't ever take a strange man up on this offer, but in this case, Tex will testify that you'll be totally safe, said Billy Ray, who was 49 at the time. I'm going to introduce you to a producer and you can kind of make yourself at home and watch us rehearse. And, you know, maybe it might lead to a role or just another contact at Disney. And so off, me and her and Tex went back to the studio, and I think she met a lot of the cast and met the producers and writers. And in some ways, well, in a lot of ways, we became friends. And this is definitely interesting. Billy Ray, who married Tish in 1993, said they stayed in touch. Firos, her legal name, though reportedly born Joanna Rosie Hodges, said, our relationship was so solid over the years. So they clearly were friends over the years, and then 4 months after Tish files for divorce, they get engaged. So that makes me think there was some kind of something before that. And Brandy did say that she saw things in her father's behavior that she didn't appreciate over the years, that made her think of the situation differently, and I just wonder if some of that is this. And yeah, it's just very interesting, very, very, very interesting. And he does in this article actually address the rumors of not talking to his kids, and this article came out in November 2022, so it was actually a while ago that he's been addressing this. And he said, everyone knew that the relationship was over a long time ago. Billy Ray, who became a grandfather last year, said of his marriage to Tish, which nearly ended 2 times previously, everybody's turning the page, it's been a lot, and everyone knew that it was time for a change. Billy Ray and Firos appeared together on Live with Kelly and Ryan in 2021 to promote their song New Day, and she talks about meeting him a decade earlier. Billy Ray's been a phenomenal supporter of my music ever since then, she told Ryan Seacrest at the time. Yeah, so that's kind of the update that I wanted to give that I found quickly, because I felt like it wasn't complete until I looked it up. If you think about it, so Brandy is 36. So Firos is 4 years younger than his oldest daughter, technically. If you look at Miley, Miley is 31. So she's only 3 years younger than his new wife, which makes sense as to why she would be so, like, yuck about it. Because I feel like you just need to keep age gaps above, like, way above your kids' ages. That's kind of where I just draw the line, right? And I guess Miley's drawing the line there. Firos wasn't, like, on Hannah Montana or anything. They didn't interact much, I guess, but she was on set, which makes people feel icky because Hannah Montana was obviously so long ago that she would have been way younger at the time and way closer to looking like Miley at the time, which I guess makes people have icky feelings and makes me have icky feelings. So in October 2023, Noah Cyrus comments on an interview in which Miley categorizes her as an emo kid, writing the disrespect in this video. As many point out, it's unclear whether Noah is referring to Miley, podcast host Joe Rogan, or both. Additionally, the clip is actually from 2020, so Noah's feelings may be more to do with the current feud than Miley's specific word choices. We're coming close now, February 2024, Miley wins her first Grammy and her second Grammy. In her acceptance speech for Record of the Year, she thanks family members including my mommy, my sister, my love, my main gaze because look how good I look, and even says, I don't think I forgot anyone, but I might have forgotten my underwear, bye. So not her dad. At this point, let's do a quick roundup of the Cyrus siblings. Miley is one of 6. She, her sister Noah, and her brother Brazen are all the children of both Tish Cyrus and Billy Ray Cyrus, and then Miley's half-sister Brandy and half-brother Trace are from Tish's marriage to her first husband, but were adopted by Billy Ray. And Miley also has a half-brother Christopher from another relationship of her father's, though he's pretty much never around. So Miley attended the Grammys with her mum, Tish, and her sister Brandy, so that's who she was thanking, leaving out all the other sibs in addition to her dad. Yes, the kids chose sides and picked teams, which is insane, but they look so good. Look at them at the Grammys. The more Miley Cyrus grows up, the more she looks exactly like her mother, and I mean that with the most utmost respect. She looks incredible. And Brandy is so stunning. I mean, yeah, this is great. Anyway, so then Tish Cyrus episode of Call Her Daddy airs on February 7th. Her mom goes on Call Her Daddy. I actually listened to the podcast, and that's what pushed me to listen to their podcast together, Brandy and Tish, because they were just so fun on this podcast. Even if you don't like Call Her Daddy as a podcast, just listen to that one. Tish and Brandy are so cute, and they're so like fun. It's just such a fun relationship. I don't know. So we have Tish and Brandy obviously on the podcast, and they spilled some tea. She talks about how it was raising Miley, and how Brandy, compared to all the rest of the kids, had way more of a strict upbringing than, for example, Miley, and they kind of go into why. So Brandy at the time was super reliant on her parents. That was before fame. I mean, Billy Ray was obviously famous, but he was at that point kind of falling off, no offense. And when Miley blew up, she obviously had her own money, and I feel like in this moment, Tish did the most responsible thing she could have done as an adult, and it was loosen the reins a little bit on Miley, so that she would want to live with them, because she knew that if she became more strict, Miley would just take her money and move out, and then that causes actually more issues because you're keeping less of an eye on her. So she was like, I had to be looser with Miley because she had the money and the means to move out, and I felt like it was more responsible for me to try and keep her at home for as long as possible so that she wouldn't do anything insane. So I actually think, in the grand scheme of things, she did the best that she could at the time with you know, what they were handed. They address weed and drugs and the pictures of Miley that used to come out with her at the bong, and like what she thought. And at the time she thought like weed was literally the devil's lettuce, so she was like, yeah, we were all angry, but you know, what can you do? Brandy addressed how it was being the oldest and feeling left out when they all moved to LA, and that was like right after she signed up to go to Tennessee, like the College of Tennessee. She couldn't change her mind at that point, but she had gone there so that she would be close to home, and now they're all moving to LA, and just how hard that was on her. Tish gets really emotional, and I loved them just talking about how everything affected all of them. And they did say that they were used to fame because of the dad, obviously Billy Ray Cyrus, but Hannah Fame was like different. And I always forget that she is a Nepo baby, because I feel like she's the only Nepo baby that I know of who like out-Nepo'd the Nepo. I just find Miley Cyrus to be so much more famous and successful than Billy Ray ever was, and no offense, once again, no offense, maybe that's just a generational gap, but I feel like she actually out-Nepo'd the Nepo. Once the show was done, Hannah Montana, obviously he was on the show, he said to GQ that the show destroyed the family, and Tish disagrees. First of all, she says that she doesn't feel like their family is destroyed at all, but Tish said that after Miley got the role, they said, we wish we could afford the real dad instead of giving her the role with like a fake dad. Tish basically said, oh, I think you might be able to afford him. She essentially undervalued him based on what he thought he was worth at the time. So I feel like maybe there was an element of him feeling almost insecure by how famous Miley got, and he was always the famous one in the family, and then he started falling off because he couldn't quite reach that high of his like peak song, and now he was being undervalued and essentially was just like second best to Miley in this show, and he was being underpaid. And I feel like maybe there's an element of insecurity that he feels like destroyed the family, but I think that might be more of a personal issue. But I think it was in general a really good idea to have him be on set, whether he felt undervalued or not, because we know what happens at these TV show sets, and I think it's always good to have your parent around. And I feel like if he had another job, if he was just like a regular 9-to-5 guy, he wouldn't be able to be on set with Miley. And obviously Tish had to take care of the other 4 children. She can't just leave them to their own accord to sit on set with Miley all day. So I think it was very good that he could be on set with her, even if he felt like he was being underpaid. Brandy talks about, you know, questioning everything in her life because of Miley, whether it be friendships, relationships, or career, but she seems to be doing really well on her own now. And Tish's new relationship seems to be super healthy and loving too, which is great to hear, you know, because of the ups and downs of the Billy Ray relationship. And she did say that she didn't want to leave Billy at some point because she didn't want her kids to feel fractured and like the family was falling apart. So she did definitely wait for Noah to kind of be the last one to leave the household, and then she felt like she was okay to then split up because she felt less guilty. And they do talk about divorce. She explains, you know, how they were essentially filed like 3 times and it finally happened. He, in my eyes, seems kind of inattentive. During COVID, he went to Tennessee for 2 years and was kind of there. They weren't allowed to fly back and forth, so she stayed in LA on her own because of the kids. And that shows me kind of what I need to see from that. She just always feels like she needs to take care of her kids, and that's very motherly thing to do. And now I feel like that gave her some time to think about relationships and life and what she wants from life and relationships, and I feel like that encouraged her and pushed her to leave that relationship once and for all. She talks about Dominic and how great he is to her, and Brandy agrees, and I feel like Miley agrees as well since she was a bridesmaid. Brandy does talk about how her parents did seem super in love at one point when they were kids, and then she grew up and saw that, but then she grew up to be an adult and finally saw the cracks and saw her dad doing some things that he shouldn't have been doing. That kind of changed her whole outlook on everything, and that Tish was just like a martyr that was putting up with everything, and that kind of paints an image to me that seems like what I was thinking anyway. Now for Brandy as the oldest to say that, it kind of confirms my thoughts anyway. Now everyone in the family has different opinions on the situation. Like Noah, you know, still on good terms with the dad, and then Brandy and Miley seem to not be, and then I don't really know about the other kids. I don't know if it's just like a younger, older divide, or if it's just like a who you're closer to divide. I'm not really sure. Recently, as I was gonna film this, Billy Ray Cyrus has finally kind of spoken out, and it was with Us Weekly. The headline says, Billy Ray Cyrus has tried reaching out to daughter Miley as family feud continues, and this is an exclusive, right? This is on February 14th, so literally on Valentine's Day, but I took a bit of a break for Valentine's. Billy Ray Cyrus is hoping to make amends with daughter Miley Cyrus following her Grammy snub earlier this month. He's tried reaching out to Miley many times and congratulated her on her Grammys, a source exclusively reveals in the new issue of Us Weekly. The kids have chosen their sides, but friends are hoping the rift doesn't last forever. Miley and Billy Ray are on the outs, the same source tells us. Miley's very close with her mum and is standing by her. Noah, on the other hand, has always been close with Billy Ray. The insider adds, it caused a rift between her and Miley. Family dynamics haven't been the same since the divorce. Now that Tish and Billy Ray are with other people, there's even more division among them all. I hope I haven't been saying Trish, because I feel like when I see the name Tish, I automatically think of Trish and like Trisha Paytas. So if I have been saying Trish at any point, just know that I mean Tish. But my brain just fills in the gaps. Noah and Brazen were invited to Tish's wedding but opted not to go. The same source added, it's no secret neither of them approves of Dominic, and that's created tension with their mum. When Miley took home 2 Grammy Awards earlier this month, the Cyrus family tension was apparent, as the singer only thanked Tish and Brandy and her love, Max Mirando. Fans were quick to point out that some people, including Billy Ray, were missing from her acceptance speeches. Miley hasn't gone over the disrespect she feels Billy Ray showed Tish and the family. Tish alluded to those feelings when appearing on the February 7th episode of the Call Her Daddy podcast, claiming that she put up with the disrespect in every form during her marriage to Billy Ray. So he spoke to Us Weekly about the fact that he's tried to reach out to Miley. I mean, this is definitely not great. But he clearly wants to resolve things with Miley. I just don't know if she's receptive, and she's at that age now where she's essentially making her own choices in life and who she wants to keep in her life and who she doesn't. As a fan of Hannah Montana, this like breaks my heart, but I also understand from an adult point of view, things are not always as they are in TV shows. But let me know what you guys think about any of this. Subscribe with the bell icon for engagement. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.